This is the Source Seeker Hour. I am Rudy Carl Alexander. This is our 139th episode, Hopes, Dreams, and Mental Health Part 2. And it's a very important subject, hopes and dreams, and you might need to cut down your volume. It's making an echo, but very important subject. There's so many things happening out in this world that cause us difficulty. And if we don't watch ourselves, we'll just go crazy and won't know where to turn. And that's why I like talking about this particular subject with professionals, with lay people, with everyone, because everyone goes through difficulty, whether they admit it or not. Let me introduce my guest. I want to introduce Sister Norma. Please introduce yourself, Norma. Norma?
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Norma Johnson. I am originally from Jamaica. I am a wife, a mother, a travel business owner, a herbalist. I'm also a school teacher, preschool teacher. I own my own home daycare. And right now I'm just looking to help as many people across the world have financial freedom and help get the best way to get healthy as well. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my friend Sheba, my friend, one of my original guests on the Sourceseeker Hour. We were in the studio, entrepreneur that has done a whole lot of things and very creative. I still remember some of the conversations when you talked about firearms even. So a great deal of experience and perspective. Sheba, introduce yourself.
Peace and greetings, everybody. My name is Sheba Amenhotep. You can find me on Facebook floating around a lot. Sheba Amenhotep. I own a company called Sweet Monsters Arts, and I just recently opened up another art company. I named it after my late father, Joseph Charlo 1879 LLC. And I specialize in all types of art, basically visual arts, a lot of paintings. I do soaps, crystals, candles, all that stuff, all types of natural cosmetics. And that's basically it. I'm an all-around artist. And I also did one of your book covers, right?
My latest book cover, yes, Voices from a Deep Heart 3, Visions of the Shrines of the Black Madonna. You did that book cover. I'm gonna see if I can find it before we leave and show it to the audience and so forth, show that book cover. So yes, ma'am, thank you. Coach Nakita? We can't hear you.
I know. How are you guys doing? My name is Nakita Bowman, otherwise known as Coach Kita. I am a mental health therapist, life coach, business coach, and college and career consultant. I work full-time at Tackle Your Dreams, which is a nonprofit that I founded and created to create mental health access for POC as well as LGBTQIA 2S+. I try to be inclusive. As well as helping other therapists to finish their licensure so that there is more access to mental health care than myself. We also have an entertainment company that procures, I call it edutainment, or intellectually stimulating events, both sober and dry events, as well as just mind-provoking, such as queer art shows or art shows and other intellectual soul ciphers. So I'm looking forward to talking with you guys today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So many things happen. I want to talk about first the stigma that people don't want to have this conversation about mental health. They don't want to have that conversation. Why do you think that is, Sheba? I want to hear your perspective.
Well, all my life, you know, and especially in the Black community, it's been a stigma. So far as mental health, they'll tell you in a minute, I'm not crazy, ain't nothing wrong with me. Take it to Jesus and pray about it. And while a lot of us just still walk around here all undiagnosed, just crazy as I don't know what. So the Black community has that real bad. We do not want to seek help. And I think that 99% of us, Black people in America, we are crazy. Something is wrong with us because you can't go through 400 plus years of oppression and the things that we have been through and still are going through, and you call yourself sane. You're crazy. No, we all need help. Yeah, a lot of Black people, especially us. You say psychiatrists, mental health. No, the subject changed real quick.
Very much so. And
a
it's
lot of us need medicine. And it's just like they say, pray. Prayer is not going to change your body chemistry. Medicine will. You need to go to a doctor, a professional. People just say pray, 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 and things just get worse and worse. We get crazy and crazy and think that we're all right, but we're not. We're just as cuckoo as I don't know what.
I'm of the opinion that medicine won't necessarily fix you per se. You have to come to a determination and understanding within yourself that you're okay, and you know everybody else. It doesn't matter what they think of you. You got to feel okay within yourself. Norma, what you think about that?
I definitely like to speak on that when she gets done.
I'm coming to you, Norma.
Okay, so we're talking about mental health. We're speaking in mental health in general, not just in the Black community, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So yes, I do. Every single person on earth should know that mental health is extremely important to our life, our living in this world, because I understand what Sheba is saying, that prayer alone won't fix it. There's work that has to be done along with the prayer. You got to put work to the faith that you're thinking in. And I do believe that a lot of us are suffering from it because we are in denial that we're not. And a lot of them, some people don't have the help, but there's help out there that, like Nakita Bowman, for example, she is a perfect example for that. There is help out there, but people are just not willing to put forth what they need to do to go and get the help that they need. The herbal products can help. Of course, they also have doctoral medication that can help, but there's tons of different help out there. Even different, companies that are willing to help, but people are just not putting themselves out there to get the help that they need because they're in denial, or sometimes it's uncomfortable for them to do it because they are scared about what other people may say.
I want to say this: there are businesses now, and it's becoming sort of the norm. You know, I worked at a school, and of course, we had different facilities, different help built in the system that if you have a situation, you could discreetly go and avail yourself of the help, and that was a good thing. Coach Nakita, along with that conversation, I want to ask about, do people have a false understanding of purpose that contributes to their mental health, and because they are reaching for something that may be so far off that it makes it difficult for them to live in reality? What you think about that?
I think if you've heard me speak before, I think of things a little bit differently. I wanted to speak first to when Sister Sheba said that, I hope it's okay, I call you sister, that about medication. She said we shouldn't just go to prayer. We shouldn't just go to, because I had a lady ask me this weekend. She said, my son's girlfriend has anxiety, and like, what can I say to her to get her to calm down? I was like, no, that's not how anxiety works. Like, anxiety and stress are two different things. Having a pep talk with someone who has anxiety is not really, in most cases, beneficial. They need coping skills. They need to be able to see life in a different way. that I think is speaking to what you were talking to, Brother Bertie. But to say like it's a state of mind that you don't need medication. Like some people, like Sister Sheba was saying, do need medication. Anxiety and depression and a plethora of other mental health issues come literally from anatomy of having a chemical imbalance in the brain that is actually leveled out by medication. And some people can get to a point where they have learned coping skills to be able to cope and deal with those types of things. And some people will need medication the entirety of their lives in order to maintain those hormonal or other balances in their brain. So to say that person needs to just get their mind right is just along the same lines as people can just pray away their mental health issues. Some people have real chemical imbalances in their brain, which makes it difficult to be stable, to make it difficult to go to work, makes it difficult to do simple things like get out of bed, wash their butts and brush their teeth and things of that nature. Sometimes it's not just about, oh, this person is lazy or this person needs to get over it. No, they've been through trauma, they've been through heartache, they've been through a loss of job, grief. All of these things can contribute to why certain people are acting the way that they're acting. So I just wanted to speak to that real quick. Now, I think if I interpret your second question properly, you were stating that do some people like think too big and so their reality is distorted by their dream? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, yes. And it's a very broad kind of statement that basically they're not living within reality. However, we create our reality. So I would say they have a false sense of the world that is created around them and what is going on until they are able to catch up. For instance, I'll give you an example. I have a young man who he has all these ideals and dreams, but you have to go through steps to get to that. And he's not able to go through the steps because he hasn't learned of that or trained himself to go through the steps. So he has a false sense of reality because he hasn't worked toward building a new sense of reality. Does that make sense what I'm talking about?
To me, he doesn't have a false sense of reality. He has a lack of skill set. And with the right skill set or with the right, so to me, when you say false sense of reality, the first thing I thought about was somebody who dreams too big. And I'm glad that's not the direction we were going in, because people would tell me I dream too big, but I didn't know what steps were to be taken until I took the first or the second. I always think about, I think it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, one of those in the, what's it called? Indiana Jones. I don't know if y'all remember, but there was this scene, and Martin Luther King talked about it as well, of not being able to necessarily see the steps, but having to take the step forward, and then the path is revealed to you. So
and
a
in
person,
that movie, Indiana Jones said, they asked him, hey, what's our next step? And he said, I don't know. I'm making it up as I go along.
right.
And I understood that, yes.
Yes. So having a false sense of reality, when I said initially, I think different than many people, comes from the fact that I think some of the biggest entrepreneurs or dreamers are the people who have a false sense of reality when their dreams are set next to someone else's dreams who cannot see the vision that they have. That's completely different than not having the skill set or knowing what to do next. And so I think I understand that some people want to put the cart before the horse, or whatever metaphor you want to use, but I would not necessarily tell that person they have a false sense of reality. I would definitely let them know, like, maybe you need to get a sensei, somebody who has been there that can walk you and guide you through, so you're not doing it alone, which again is why I created my organization, so that particularly for mental health or for young people who want to go into business, we create that mentorship or that program so that they can get what they need. Additionally, I had I only mentioned that he's white because we were talking about Black Lives Matter. And he said, how, I'm moved by the movement. What can I do? And I said, well, for this movement, I think it's putting your money where your mouth is, but also utilizing your privilege. Have you used Black-owned businesses to get those Black Lives Matter signs on the front lawn, or bought your Black Lives t-shirts from a Black Lives Matter, a Black company? Have you put some young teen or some young person on and introduced them to somebody that you know that can mentor them in the field that they're looking at? Wealth can come from not just giving money to people, but also passing of knowledge. And I think a lot of that is missing these days. How are we passing the lessons to the next generation? One last point is that sometimes the prior generation, like my parents, even with my dream, told me to slow down because they didn't know the steps and they didn't necessarily see my dream. If I had done that, I would have missed out on probably $160,000 because I didn't know the step. And my dream is so big compared to go to school, get a degree, go to work, get your pension, be quiet, put your head down. I'm definitely not that person. So like, I have to watch who I get advice from, even in that. So in conclusion, I wouldn't necessarily say in that particular instance that you're giving me that he has a false sense of reality, but giving him the guidance as well as kind of like a compliment sandwich. It's nice that you have this dream, but have you thought about this and this and this, versus like sometimes the language people use kind of crush people's dream and takes away their ability to even brainstorm what is needed next.
Let me say this. All my life, people have said, well, you can't do this, you can't do that. So I am a living example of somebody who did not accept what others, the limitations others put upon me. And I say that to say that sometimes, others can't see what you see, and that shouldn't stop you. You should always move forward, but be realistic in yourself and push yourself to the end of the envelope also, but only you can decide what you're capable of. I want to ask,
what does realistic mean to you? Because realistic is relative to each person. I want to create a mental health franchise. So not just me, but me being able to empower other people with the system that I've been created. So that could be unrealistic for someone like you. But when you say realistic, what do you mean by that?
The person themselves has to decide what is realistic. I can't decide for somebody else what is and what isn't, because they don't have my eyes. They have their own bias when they see things. So don't let anyone decide what is real and what is not for you. Now, but to your own self be true. To your own self be true. That's what I'm saying. I want to ask Sister Norma, because she has to go in a second. What is our purpose in life? And do people sometimes get fragmented and caught up because they don't understand their purpose? What do you think about that? What is our purpose in life? And do people get fragmented and that causes their mental health problems? Sister Norma?
Yes, I heard you. I'm sorry. Yes, so our purpose, everybody's purpose is different, but it's just to figure out what it is that you, it's a feeling that, it feels like a gift, a talent for some. So I can't say everybody is the same purpose. Nakita's purpose is not the same because we are all a ray of sunshine, different rainbows. So it's a variation. So my purpose is not going to be Nakita's purpose. Nakita's purpose is Sheba's purpose is not going to be Nakita's purpose. We are all put on this earth to do different things because we are all given different gifts and talents. So for me, I say my purpose is to help as many people as I possibly can. But Nakita's is to help people with mental health or something else of the sort. So of course, some of us are going to have that fragmented because they don't have what Nakita would say, they don't have the skill set, They don't know where to turn. They have never been taught. When they were younger, they probably didn't have anybody to help coach and mentor them. So a lot of us are not going to have that real perspective on what their purpose is, but I'm learning mine as I go because I also have a personal development coach. So I think a lot of us are 70-year-old, 80-year-old and still didn't know what our purpose was because we don't get a chance to even get somebody to mentor us or coach us into what their talent is and how they can bring out that within them.
You know, I didn't totally know what my purpose was, and we are always still learning. But when I started doing this show many ions ago, back in the studio, Sheba, I had a different kind of, you remember I was more shy, I was more unconfident, I was more, had more self-doubt, more scared. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I know I had all this talent, all these ideals, but you know, they were so fragmented and I didn't know what to do with them. And this show and this mission has allowed me to kind of coalesce all of those particular things and bring them all out. And so, you know, I've had somebody tell me recently, well, you know, you're too aggressive. You talk too much. And I say, hey man, I'm just being myself. And what I found out is he was insecure and I'm not. I used to be, but I'm not, and it made him uncomfortable. I can't worry about making him uncomfortable. Now, I'm not going to be disrespectful and, you know, try to cause problems intentionally, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with being me and being myself. So, Sheba, what is our purpose in this life?
Everybody has their own purpose. Everybody has their own cross to bear. Now me, my purpose is to be an all-around artist. Now I was telling a lot of my kin people that I wanted to start a business selling art. And I showed them some of my paintings and they laughed. They said, Lord have mercy, get a real job, go to college, get a degree. Who gonna buy that? You talking making some money selling some earrings and some soap and this and that. They're like, Lord have mercy, that poor child. They said, you got to go to the white folk, the kind of artwork you do, if they do buy it. So, like you were saying, everybody doesn't have your vision. And that was my dream, my purpose, and my vision. And I proceeded with it anyway, out of all that negative stuff that they were saying. And I also was singing. I said, I want to sing. They're like, ha, ha, sing? So I just got on the street corner one day, vending. I just grabbed the mic and I don't know what happened. I don't know what got into me, but I started singing and people were giving me donations. So it's like, you have to know and you have to be secure within yourself to know what your abilities are. And you have to be confident in it and you have to push regardless of what. And that's what I did. And that's a lot of other people need to do. Now, some people's purpose, like you said, may be to be a book writer or a screenwriter or a playwright or whatever they have a passion to do.
Let me interject this, but the problem is that as you're coming along and you're trying to find your way, you got so many people, as you said, your family telling you, no, don't do this. And you're hearing all of this and it presents a pressure on your life, as well as the media, the TV, all of these different factors, all of these particular things. And if you're not strong enough, it can affect you and take you off course. And, you know, you ending up, I could have did this, I could have did this, as you are, you know, depressed. And because you didn't follow through, you didn't at least try to follow through. But it's so many of our young brothers and sisters out there that are going through these things that I talked about earlier. And it's easy to fall, well, it's a challenge. It's a
Mhm.
challenge to try to find your way through all of this storm that we're dealing with. And some people are not successful, Sheba.
Mhm.
Some people are, they fall by the wayside because you have to have a support system,
Mhm.
a strong belief, faith, and
Mhm.
not everybody has those things, and it causes them difficulty, mental health difficulty, all kinds of difficulty. Sister Coach Nakita, can you comment on that? What is our purpose, and what I was sharing about how difficult it is?
Um, what is our purpose is a difficult question for most people. And I'd like to frame this from a perspective when we talk about success. So a lot of people, when I ask them, well, I ask two questions to about 97, if not 100% of my clients at one point or another. One is, how do you determine your worth, WORTH? But the other is also, how do you define success? And I think that is in alignment with the question that you're asking about your purpose. Your purpose, I think, changes over time as you're getting to know yourself. I am a retired mechanical engineer. I played professional women's football, and now I am a performer on top of being a mental health therapist. My passion or my purpose is to create systems and create recognition to these little microcultures of life and bring my whatever my gifts, my talents, my skill sets to that subset of people, and then help them to develop their own wealth, their own vision, their own dreams. So it's not just one-sided. That's what I believe my purpose is, on top of just being a perpetual bigger person, and empath to people I don't even know. I mean, everywhere, just, whew. But when we talk about how do you define success, I think a lot of people will put their purpose or how good they're doing in life around their definition of success. And usually that comes to some type of definition about what you have achieved. And I think, according to Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, it is the pursuit of a goal that makes you successful. So instead of the realization of a worthy ideal, it's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And so from that perspective, your purpose probably will change as you get to know yourself, as you get, your confidence ebbs and flows depending on what's happening in your life currently, the relationships you do or do not have. I would like to call it resilience and grit. A lot of people need to, resolve, and they need to these things. But if you've been beat down your entire life by your mother, by your father, by your white school teachers that told you you're not smart, or they wouldn't call on you in class, and now you're a troublemaker, and you go to college barely, like all of these hurdles and 500 years of, you know, of Black History Month and slavery and being a rapper, being an athlete, we don't get to see a lot of role models of what it's like when you talk about being realistic. I just feel like it's a misnomer because we don't get to see a lot of representation outside of these things about what even purpose looks like, what purpose can feel like, what purpose can be outside of success. And so redefining success allows us to even look at purpose in a different way, of finding what makes your soul burn, because it might not be what your job is. I would love for it to be in alignment with your job or with your business, but it also could be something outside of how you make money. And a lot of people tie those two things together and don't want to go to work because it doesn't make my soul light up. And I'm like, I think that might be an unrealistic expectation at certain points of your life, because you still got to eat, you still got to take care of home. But at the same time, like, there's different ways to drive or to live into your purpose. I think it is very particular for each person.
Yes, ma'am. I want to ask Sister Norma this. She says she has to go in a second. How, with all the things going on in this world, do you not get depressed? Do you not get jaded? How do you not get down? Is it just staying busy and not worrying about it? How do you not let it affect you where you can get the best out of your day?
Okay, so I don't let a lot of things bother me because there's a lot of things that I cannot do anything about. So the reality of it all is like, if you can't do nothing about it, don't let it overwhelm you. And I surround myself with a lot of people that has their mindsets right. I read a lot. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be something that everybody's into. I read a lot. I try to read different types of books. I try to listen to affirmations. I make my own affirmations. I create a schedule for myself. So that means I'm not all over the place and being busybody here, there, and everywhere. I have my daughter. I have a schedule for her so that I'm not overwhelming myself nor her. I have a husband. So I know throughout the day, I have a few things to do. So I'm not going to go watch a movie that is going to depress me when I could easily be taking care of my daughter or talking to one of my business partner or talking to one of my niece or nephew in different parts of the world. So I know there's a lot of craziness going on out there, but I don't let a lot of those things come into my spirit nor in my mind because it's not going to help me create anything good. It's just going to let me get anxiety, depression. So I surround myself with very positive people, and that helps me a lot.
Understood. So you're okay with cutting the TV off for yourself and for your family if something is on that is not okay.
Sometimes I don't even watch TV for like 3-4 months. My husband is the one telling me things.
I understand. It's difficult though. So many things on TV and kids or young people don't necessarily have our discipline, and they looking at all of these particular things and not being able to filter it. And so it causes them doubt, questions, issues, problems. And I would like to reach out and share with them that they can find a way to decide what's good and bad. Yes, everybody needs a support system. And if you have one, be appreciative of that. I know when I was a young man, I was not appreciative of my father in the way that I should have been. But you've heard the story. Okay, at 25, I said, oh, my dad ain't nothing. 35, I said, okay, maybe he had something. 45, I said, okay, my dad is super smart. At this age, there's nothing else to say, but oh, he was a master. He was a master, and I didn't even know it. He was a master, and I should have revered him in that particular way. But that is the way life is. That is the way life is. We don't see it until we see it. And that is understanding that we go through, and that's the way things happen in life. There's so many things happening, and it seems like it's getting worse and worse. But if you look back at history, things were crazy back then. Things were crazy back then in the medieval times, in Roman times, in early English times. They were crazy back then. The only difference is we have new technologies that make things easier to access and easier to, the world is smaller because we got the internet. So we can understand what's going on across the world in Maui and different places where we couldn't understand that before. So it's the same world, just different technologies. It was crazy then, it's crazy now, but it's also beautiful in the context, if you see it in that context of the beauty that God created, if you look at it in that context. Sister Sheba, what did you say about the world that we live in, and is this the world that God created? Why is it like this?
Well,
I know that's a deep question.
Well, you know what? In Genesis, I think it's Genesis 6:5-7. It said God said that he regretted he made man on the earth because it's continual wickedness and evilness in his heart day and night. So that was in the beginning. So nothing has
But
changed.
didn't God know that we was gonna be like that?
Um,
I mean,
I
well,
think
are we saying that God did not know? I mean, if he's God, didn't he know that we was gonna be like that? Didn't he know that Eve was gonna eat from the apple?
but you know what? It's according to what our perception of the word God is. Some
Okay.
people think that God is all knowing. Some people think that the gods who came to this earth were scientists who did genetic experiments on human beings. So it's all according to what you see God as. Some people see him as all knowing, omnipotent, this and that, and what have you. And for me to bring that up, they'd be like, well, didn't he know so and so, this and that? And then other people be like, no, the gods were a scientist because it said, let us make man. That's more than one person in our image, So I just feel like it was a genetic experiment that went bad.
A genetic experiment that went bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is a way to look at it. So,
Mhm.
I mean, some people say that we started out as monkeys. Now, we're not going to get into theology and evolution and so forth and so on. But I come back to that point.
Mhm.
Why is the world like this? And it's always had a depth of bad. I would say that it's created so that God's purpose can be glorified. And what does that mean? I mean, it means different things for different people, but that because things can rise to the top, even in the depths of despair, things can rise to the top. During slavery, there were great examples of men who rose to the top, even under those circumstances, even in the circumstances that Booker T, who was born in slavery, and look what he rose up to do. Now, that is not a reason to say slavery was good. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, even in the heart of the bad that happens, a shining light can still happen, even though in those particular circumstances. Sister Coach Nakita, I brought you this subject before. My friend, we talking about purpose. He showed me pictures of his house. I don't know if you remember, I discussed this with you before. I think I did. He showed me pictures of his house. I did not get so excited. I said, that's good. He wanted a different response. He wanted me to say, oh, that's the greatest thing in the world, which I did not say. And when I did not say that, he tried to put me down and say, okay, you not being a good friend and so forth and so on. I'm showing you this house and you're not being excited. And I said, God didn't make houses. God made humans, make life. I show you my 3 kids. You show me your house. And he was so upset with that. And I understand that, but I'm trying to make a bigger point that the purpose is also to multiply and replenish the earth in the best way possible, to take what we are given and to make it prosper. The old example in the Bible where several men were given things, some of them went and hid it in the sand. Some of them, went and gave it away. And then one, he took his and he created more with it. And that's what I think our purpose is, to take what we have and do the best we can with it. You have a comment on that?
A comment on multiplying our talents?
Well, that being our purpose, to take what we are given, even in the darkest circumstances, and shine the best light that we can with what we are given. That is what I believe our purpose is. You know, because some people are given this, some people are given that. I mean, LeBron James is given so much, and he's going to be judged differently than you or I are given, than you or I are judged, and so forth. Some people are given millions and millions of dollars, and then they ended up with nothing at the end of their life. And that is our purpose. What are you doing with what you are given? What do you think about that?
I can kind of see where you're coming from, but I think more important is, and maybe it's in a similar vein, what are we learning? What are we learning from our experiences, whether they're good or bad? When I talk about anxiety in particular and depression, I say, one, we are trying to control, and I think Sister Norma talked about it earlier. We are trying to control things that we can't control using an overactive imagination and focusing on things that are not productive towards our end. And so when you talk about what is our purpose and what are we here for, three particular areas where people spend a lot of time that they can't control is the past, the future, and being in someone else's head. Being in the past means that I'm stuck in a particular thing that happened in the past, but I haven't taken the lessons from that and applied it to my current life. Being in the future means most likely I'm trying to prevent something that has happened to me from happening again, by worrying about something I can't actually prevent. And then being in somebody else's head is trying to understand what someone else is thinking or how someone else is thinking, which is something you really can never do because you never know what someone else is thinking, no matter what they tell you. So when being in these areas, you're taking away and giving away your power to be in the present moment, because the present moment is the only place where your real power exists. So for me, it is understanding your power. And really, I started talking about meditation from a perspective of wrestling your mind to control your thoughts. That will help you to utilize the talents that you've been given, or your wealth or your skill sets, in a way that's effective to forward humankind. But each person's journey is very contextual to that person. If you believe in reincarnation, a bear's purpose would not necessarily be maybe to be fruitful and multiply, but it is to be a damn good bear. Whatever being a bear means. Being a human, of course, there's different ways and different thought processes, different religions, different everything to say what a person's supposed to be doing from the context that you're presenting. But I think if we all take it as an opportunity to learn from the things that have crossed our path, and hopefully tomorrow is a better day than yesterday, I think that is what our purpose here is as humans, because a lot of us get stuck. And my friend had told me once that I was I pressured her to always be pressing and moving forward, because I always asked her, hey, what you working on? What's next? What you got going? And she was like, man, every time I see you ask me that, as if I shouldn't be satisfied with my current situation. So that helped me to learn about being content with what I have, not necessarily always having to forward, multiply, and push forward, because we are taught, if you talk about being realistic and success, and believe me, I'm a dreamer.
I would like to interject.
Sure.
There's a difference between content and appreciative. I just want to say that in the context of what you just said, it's a big difference between being content and appreciative. We got to learn to be appreciative. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to be content.
I understand, and I agree there is a difference, but I think that in our culture and our society, being content is something that can actually be looked down upon. And it kind of has a tinge of that with the way that you describe the difference between the two.
That's a debatable point.
I'm asking you.
I mean, I don't see that in that because content is you're satisfied. You are saying, okay, I did good and I'm basically at the ceiling of what I'm trying to achieve.
No, that's your definition though.
You asked me.
I understand. But my question was, there's a twinge of being content is a negative thing. And I'm saying being content is something our society says is negative. That is how we define what realistic is, what being a good citizen is, what being a good Christian is. It comes from the propaganda of what's being taught so that we can consistently create, we can consistently put out the widgets, we can consistently create service, and we don't, a lot of us, especially in the Black community, don't take time to celebrate. We feel like rest needs to be earned, and rest is a basic human right, but we feel like we have to earn it. We feel like we're not supposed to cash in PTO. We're not supposed to cash in, we're supposed to work through lunch. Some of us don't have this, but a lot of us in society, when we talk about being content, it's like, ugh, how can you be content? That was the point of my whole point. I used to be like that. Like, we always got to be personal development, learning more, putting more in, putting more out. But there should be a point where I can sit back and say, like God did on the seventh day, let me sit back and rest and say, look at what I did.
And you know, we're not a monogamous, or excuse me, you know what I'm saying? We're not all one way as a group. So there are some of us who are never pushing, never going to the extra mile, who are content doing nothing, basically in that definition. And what I'm saying about appreciative means, hey, I appreciate what I accomplished and I appreciate what I'm doing. I would like to do more, but I do have an understanding and appreciation of what I have done. And what I'm seeing as content means I'm not trying to do any more. I'm okay with what I've already done. I don't want to upset the apple cart no more because I'm okay right here. Let me go into, we are toward the end of our show. I want us to get into this subject that I was talking about when I first started. I just wrote an article on image and in relationships, image and identity. And what gave me that impetus to write that is I went to the store by my mother's house and I saw these three guys, and from a distance, I thought, you know, he had his hat on or scarf on. It looked like a girl from the street and so forth. And they were young men, 25 to 35, and one of them had a baby they were pushing and so forth, and which I thought was admirable. However, I think that the world that they live in, they get fragmented. I don't believe that that was their intention when they first started out in life. I think so many different things come in. Young men, they have a difficulty understanding their place, where they're gonna go, and they have so many different factors that they're trying to find a way to have an identity, to be a somebody, for people to like them and for them to find a place to be like. Right around the corner here today, we had these gentlemen, and you might have saw it on the TV, that they kept running from the police. They were 17, 18, and then they crashed into a lady and killed her. What drives the young men to do that, I say, is they do not have an understanding, or they do not have an understanding of any purpose, and they are fledgling here and there. And when they do that, they have no foundation. And it's easy to get caught up into a mindset like that because the world comes at you with so many different images. You got to have a strong support system, foundation, and training to be able to withstand the pressures that the world puts on you. Sheba.
Yes.
Can you comment on that?
I agree entirely with what you just said, the explanation for that. And I think a lot of it has to do with not having a father in the home, a strong male image.
There's a lot of young men don't have a father. They have a strong mother that whoop their tail. But yeah, that is a factor. But it's also bigger than that. Just that that can explain some things, but it's more than just that. Also,
Well, it's only
there's so
so
many
much
different factors.
well, it's only so much that a woman can do, especially if she's raising boys. So I think you need that masculine and that feminine energy in there in order to help build autonomy in those children. So I think that has a big factor in it, that lack of a positive male role model in the house. So the boys just go wild, haywire. They have nobody to guide them, no structure, no discipline, no
I
moral
I I
responsibility.
understand. I agree, and the world makes it much more difficult to be able to get that foundation. Uh, Wherever you go, it's more difficult. Coach Nakita, your word on that?
I think it's very much, I think both of you have a point, but it's not, it all boils down to this one or two or three things of not having a father, not having a mother, not having purpose. Um, Not to belabor the point, but when you were just talking about being content and it having like a negative connotation, um, we also had a conversation. I thought you were going back to how somebody was wasting their life away about the way that they were dressed or the way they had decided to present themselves. There are several layers, and I call it propaganda because to me, that's what it is. It's the marketing machine of what is right, what is realistic, what is proper, what is accepted. And especially coming with the filter of religion, whether it be Catholicism, Christianity, etc., even Islam, there is a, what? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, you're talking about the image that is presented. There's a certain image that the work world wants to accept. Now it's changing a little bit, but you wouldn't come to the job with a scarf on and sandals and expect your employer to allow you to come in there. So that, in a lot of ways, dictates the accepted dress, the accepted ways. You know, when my son comes out the house with he comes out the house with pajamas on. That is not accepted in the, now it might be comfortable, but that's not accepted. So that is the thing that dictates in a lot of ways your dress, what you are supposed to do. Now that may not be correct, but we at the end of the day want to make sure we're in a position to get paid. We're in a position to be able to feed ourselves. So we have to find a way to gear our lives toward that. And that is the deciding factor. Whatever our personal desires and wants and feelings are, we have to gear it toward being able to eat.
Maybe I missed your initial question, but you said there was a male or two males walking down the street. One had a child and one had a scarf on. You weren't mentioning work, were you?
They are not in a position to, and that's a perfect example. They are not in a position with the way they were at that particular moment to compete in an environment of work world, the normal work where there's maybe a 10% work world where they could work in. But yes, that is a part of it.
They are not in a position to work because they're walking down the street with a scarf on their head with a baby and a stroller.
The way that they were dressed at that particular time
but they're
Now,
not going to a job and they weren't going to a job interview. So why
I
would they have
agree.
to be
So
dressed in that
I
manner?
can't judge them on those particular factors on that. And I wasn't adding the work world in my perspective of that. I wasn't looking at that. However, I would not want my son to be dressed like that out in the world so people would have a certain perception of him. However, he might do that, and I would have to adjust my my perspective to be able to relate with him. So, but when I go back to that particular situation, I was mainly talking about these gentlemen who wanted to dress in a way that was different than they were born, and what I was really talking about is why did they feel the necessity to do that? Because they wanted to be accepted in a certain way, and the world is pushing them in a way that they think that they could be accepted like that, and they may be accepted like that in a certain segment of the population. But those are the different pressures that they have to engage in, where before 20 years ago, they did not. So I'm just saying that that is what they have to encounter, what all young men have to encounter, the world, the new world that we have to deal with.
So the thing that's making it difficult for me to respond is, first of all, that you interrupted my point to bring in a measure that was not on the original point. And then when I countered asking, what does that have to do with, what is them not being work ready have to do with the way that they're walking down the street? You now countered with, well, first of all, that's not your child. And even if it was your child, at a certain point, we get autonomy to dress however we want. Believe me, my mother would love to put me in a dress. But there's a certain autonomy that happens where they decide from their personality, the propaganda I was speaking to of how they want to, because we think our thoughts are our own, and at a certain point they are, but a lot of it is fed into us from what we see and what we believe based upon what we experience.
That's my point.
No, I don't think that's your point, because you said you mixed the language, but if somebody is presenting themselves outside of the way that they were born, completely separate topic than somebody who's, I'm sure they probably had like a muscle tee on, their pants are sagging, pajamas with a do-rag on, they're walking with their kid, maybe they're going to get formula and they live right up the street, but you have said now they don't have purpose, they don't have drive, they're out here killing, raping, and stealing, and they're never going to get a job, but they're just walking to get some formula for their kid. You've created a whole story around how this person is walking down the street, and the person who lives outside of what they were born, or technically it is not the way that they were born, it is what they are assigned at birth, because there is a large portion of the population that is assigned a gender at birth that does not agree with the way that they feel due to the scientific way that they have both female and male parts. So that conversation is completely separate from what you're talking about, but the way someone dresses does not have to speak to the point of if they have purpose and if they are pursuing their purpose. Today, I have on a t-shirt, some slides, and some shorts I would normally not wear, but I decided today, screw it, this is what I'm going to wear. You might see me at Walmart and say, that lady, there's no way she's a professional, but I make over $100,000 a year. You cannot judge somebody based upon the wrapping of if they have purpose and if they have drive and if they are in alignment with the way they're supposed to be living based upon your interpretation of how I'm supposed to be dressed or how I'm supposed to be living.
I've lived long enough to totally agree with that assessment. Let me say what I was trying to make a point of. I was trying to make a point that the media and the peer pressures of life put so many thoughts, images, and mindsets across the board that it puts so much pressure on young men and everybody to try to find an identity. That's what I was saying. And they chose an identity that was different, in my opinion, from what they were created. They chose that because they can feel more loved, or they can feel more appreciated, and the pressures of life and not knowing which way to turn put them in that particular mindset. That's what I was trying
Their
to say.
mindset, if they chose to present themselves in a way that they were not additionally assigned, could completely be, I just want to live this way and have my own peace, regardless of society or if someone else accepts me, because a lot of us do not get accepted, particularly with our own families. Nonetheless, with society, they have a whole bill out trying to ban the way that we want to exist, which does not make any sense to me. But it does here in Texas, because they also want to tell me what I can do with my reproductive rights. So my original point before you interjected was that what we believe isn't always what we believe. It is programming. So to say it is this, or that, why a person does not have purpose or does not have drive, or even what purpose means or what drive means, can be based upon what we are designed to believe in the first place. As for
That's all I was trying
example,
to say.
being content.
We're
Being
programmed.
content is not necessarily a bad thing, but here in our society, we're supposed to always be achieving more, always be making more, always wanting a promotion, always, always. And to say, hey, let's chill out for a second and just enjoy the fruits of our labor. We are almost taught, especially in the Black community, because we're taught we have to be productive to be put in the blank. We have to be productive. We have to be. You have to be bigger. You have to be better. You have to be faster. You always have to be dressed to the nines. They told me never do jeans on Friday when you work in corporate. You're Black. You can't do that. We're taught these things through our transfer of knowledge from one generation to the next, but also the propaganda. Go ahead. I'm good.
I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but the propaganda, the programming is the key, and the programming that would tell a young man that this is okay. You know, he might have a different. If he didn't get that programming, he might be different. He might have a different mindset.
But the propaganda is the fact that we have to exist. The propaganda is that we have to exist in a certain way anyway. For instance, somebody who has a tattoo on their face is unprofessional. Why? Why is that unprofessional? That person who has a tattoo on their face could be better, stronger, faster. They could create the next AI, but someone will not give them a job because they have tattoo on their face. Now, do I think, would I tell my clients to go get a tattoo on their face? No, I wouldn't, because I want them to be successful. But the propaganda is what tells us what is professional in the first place. Why can't I have locks? They told me I should not have locks to be seen as a professional in corporate America. Well, screw corporate America. I'm not going back, because this is how or to be natural, to have curly hair, to have an afro. It's how our hair grows out. It is out of compliance. Why? Because that's what society says is beautiful and is professional. That's the propaganda. So you're telling me he should not exist, or he should not elect, or he should not dress this way. They're even telling us we can't work from home because we can't be, yes, we can. But the propaganda is telling us we have to exist in a certain way.
So what I guess I'm saying is, you have to play along until you can change the propaganda.
Oh, yes, I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
Or you create your own, just like I did.
Yeah. So, and but to go against that realm, when you have not changed the propaganda, then you're putting yourself in a position where you're limited.
I'm
But
glad Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez, and I'm glad that they went against the grain. So now that I can sit next to a white person and get a sandwich without getting spit at or thrown at, I mean, somebody has to decide, I don't want to conform to whatever it is that you're putting SB 12 against. I don't want to conform to, oh, if I was raped, I cannot abort my baby. I do not want to conform to all of these things where you're telling me how to exist. So I'm glad some of our ancestors did, so we can sit here and have this conversation without being dragged off to some jail cell. But we are fastly approaching these things of, depending on what you're saying, you can get locked up and they can not have any questions for you for 10 to 15 years because we just want you to be quiet. We're fastly approaching. That's what the Patriot
Act that never comes. We hope that we are always able to have this conversation, Coach.
Well, according to the Patriot Act, they could come for us at any time. So we have to be careful. And I don't mean to sound like some crazy person, but these are real laws that exist today in 2023.
Well, we don't want that law to exist.
It
I want
does.
to go, before we finish, what do you think about this conversation, Sheba?
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. The whole hour. It was great. It was marvelous. I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to being back on the show and even talking to this young lady. I love your conversation. I like the way you talk, the way that you're composed and everything. I think I'm in love.
Oh, she's powerful. Yes, she's powerful. I love her. Yes. Sheba, give your contact information.
Sheba Amenhotep. You can find me on Facebook, or you can call me directly. 832-574-1940.
Yes, ma'am.
574-1940.
If anybody has any comments for Sheba, and I see them on the Facebook feed, I'll make sure that you get them, Sheba, so you can argue back with them or share back with them and so forth. I thank you. We go back a long ways. I appreciate it all the time. Final word, Coach Nakita?
I do appreciate your openness and inviting me onto the show. I know I think radically different than many, and I represent what I like to say, the masses historically left unseen. My name is Nakita Bowman. I am a master's level professional, licensed professional counselor, life coach, college and career coach. I can be found at tackleyourdreams.com. All of my information is there. You can also Google my name, Nakita Bowman. I am on Facebook. I'm on IG. I'm also on psychologytoday.com. I am taking new clients. We are expanding. We're looking for other therapists that would like to join our movement, as well as, we're taking new clients as well. So I really appreciate the conversation today. You had me thinking outside the box as well. And I would love to, come back and have this chat. It's nice to meet you too, Queen Sheba over there.
And one thing I'm gonna take with me is, you were a professional football player. I'm gonna have to ask you and talk to you about that one.
Yes.
This is the 139th episode of the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm Baruti Carl Alexander. I want to thank my guests again, Sheba, Coach Nakita, and blessings, and we'll see you next time. And thank you very much.